What I guess is important to bring about when we talk about challenges are the financial challenges, especially in a city like Philadelphia and urban education. So it's not only about teaching children to read and write, it's about teaching children to read and write and think and articulate when they're hungry, when they themselves sometimes serve as the parents, when they walk down the street sometimes and have to duck and hide because of gunshots, things like that, when they have low self-esteem and insecurities.
Basically, the way we grew up, my father was a sanitation worker, and so he had good income, but he would spend his income on things like drugs, cigarettes, beer, stuff like that, with this other girl that he had a relationship with. My mother was never present. She was sort of out of the picture because she was an alcoholic. She would burst into and out of our life, episodic scenes, stuff like that. And I had a lot of freedom when I was a child, and so that was a good thing. Unfortunately, since my dad used to spend his money on all the wrong things, we never really had any food in the house, and basically the only thing that was stocked in the house was canned goods. And so one day, Department of Human Services came out, and they took a look at the refrigerator and everything, and they saw that my father was not fit to take care of us, so they took us out of his care, and they placed us in foster care. At first, we moved around with multiple family members, and when our family members couldn't take care of us either, they had to make us move in with a stranger. And so that changed everything, because the freedom that I had was gone. And when you are forced to move from a family filled with love to a family that doesn't know you, so therefore they could not love you right off the beginning, that's extremely hard, because I had to transition from one environment to another environment and adapt to it. And it's helped me to persevere and becoming a lot stronger individual.
My first year of teaching was culture shock. I lived in this suburb all my life, and I was driving into the city every day for the first time in my life, and I would put what I thought was a simple journal question on the board, and I would get answers that made me come home and cry. I put a journal entry on the board: if you could change something in your community, what would it be? And I, at the time, was thinking how my children used to complain that the cars went by too fast in front of our home, and we called the township and they came out and put a sign, in fact it's still on our front lawn, about children in the area so the cars would slow down. But the responses I got from my students were that they would remove the abandoned cars on the street so the hookers would go somewhere else. They would stop the gun firings that they heard all night long that kept them awake. Things that I had no concept of.
Biggest understanding came when I was speaking with a student in the high school journalism workshop class at Germantown. She was sleeping, her head was down, and I went to Miss Connigan and I asked, her head was down often. Like, she would have her head down, like she would be tired. She would respond sometimes during class when we would try to do lessons. But, mainly she would keep her head down. And I would ask Ms. Connigan one day, what's going on with her? Like, is she all right? Or is she just, not listening to us because she doesn't care? She was like, no, she's actually, tired because she works. Like, after school, this is her last period of the day. She leaves, she goes to work, she goes home, and she takes care of her younger sisters and her younger brothers and sisters. So I actually, seeing that, and I respected that girl so much because she still consistently came to class. She still participated when she could. If there was an assignment and she was interested in it, she wrote something up, she and I would work on it, and she would submit it, but then head would go back down because she was tired because she had to go to work. And I understood that for the first time. Like, I had a job in high school, but I didn't need to have a job. I had a job because I wanted to have some extra haircut money, or I wanted to get a new video game or something like that. She had a job because she needed to work. So seeing that, it really made me understand and respect her, because, so many people, they'll have that job and they won't still go to school. I knew people like that who went to the school that I went to. They got a job, they just stopped coming to school, or they just came to school and did absolutely nothing. This young woman was still going to school, still doing her work, and still, helping her family. So it opened my eyes in that sense.
At this time, I'm going to call on our class secretary, Ms. Tanisha Surratt, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be followed by the national anthem led by Kevin Talmadge. Good morning, everyone. I would now like everyone to please stand and join us to sing the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic.
My name is Zenlin Rivera. I am a cadet captain at the Philadelphia Military Academy. My job is to motivate young people to become better citizens as a Raider captain. What I do is I teach my subordinates first aid, navigation, physical fitness, things of that nature. My plan for the future is to go to West Point, graduate from West Point after doing criminal law as my major and business as my minor. Then go into the Army, be an MP, military police, S4, supply and logistics, Rangers, and airborne. That means jump out of aircraft. And then retire after doing 20 years, be a Philadelphia police officer for 5 to 10 years, then retire and then go into the business field and create churches and put opportunity into the churches to get back to the community.
sing the Black National Anthem.
You know, so you talk about school being easy. And when I got to Dobbins, it was nothing that I expected. I graduated in the 80s. I actually wanted to attend Dobbins because it was one of the top schools in the city. And so I'm sure you remember, like I remember, it was a school similar to a low-performing school. There were children in the hallways all the time. Teachers were not really teaching as much as we would expect them to be. If there was any homework at all, it was maybe a worksheet. And so one of my goals when I came there was to turn Dobbins around into the school that I remember it to be.
Before you came, I'm gonna say, all right, my freshman year, the school had like a lot of credibility, and that was basically because of football. They were like two-time football champs or whatever. Once you came, everything sort of changed because I remember the students, like, to be honest, they didn't like you too much, and the staff had voiced concerns about you too. And I think the reason why was because you came and you imposed a change upon the school like immediately, and they didn't like it. They wanted things to be the old way it was. When I was a senior, I was appalled because we didn't even have AP courses, and that was basically because of school district budget cuts and things like that. And I wanted to take advantage of those AP courses because I knew I would go on to college and I knew it would be helpful. So the fact that we didn't have math like our whole senior year and we were expected to take that placement test, it sort of just like all collapsed on me.
I first found out about the high school journalism workshop class through looking through the course catalog. So classes were about to be scheduled and I was looking for certain electives as part of my journalism degree, and was looking through certain ones, and I had always been very attracted to look into magazine journalism, maybe longer form because I really liked to write. And I saw that class come up, and I thought about it for a little bit because I didn't know if, once again, if I could do something like that. I was a little nerve-wracked. And then I gave it a little more time, and I thought about it a little more, and I thought, you know what, no, that's something you should do because that's something that's going to push you. So just sign up for it, do it, don't worry about it. And then I did, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. You are assigned a school, and you go to that school maybe a few times a week or once a week, depending on what works for the class and for the teacher as well. So once you get assigned a school, you then are kind of given the contact information of the teacher and however you go about that, whether it's email or on the phone or you meet in person, and you kind of just go from there to see what the needs are and how you can help and go forward.
School journalism workshop class, it actually forced me to leave this area of North Philadelphia around Temple. I'm driving up Germantown, like going up Broad, turning at Pike, and then just, heading up Germantown. I had like experience in Philadelphia that kind of way, like not what you see on the Temple postcards or like on a billboard or like an advertisement for Center City, Philadelphia. Like it was people, like living their everyday lives, not for the purpose of an advertisement. I felt more like a Philadelphian, heading up there, and not just a student living in Philadelphia. So that kind of helped me integrate myself a little bit more into the city, and it made my transition from Baltimore to Philadelphia that much easier. So and then going to the class and meeting the students and working with them, like it was cool. Like I loved working with them. Like it was like I felt old enough to like give a little bit of guidance and supervision, but young enough to still like have a little bit of fun in the middle of the day.
It was just great. Like I absolutely loved being there and going every week, and sometimes I think I'd go twice a week. I'm not positive, but it was just a great experience, and I think it was great to learn from them, mostly because I think it was mostly a learning experience too for myself, because I didn't think I could be an authoritative role at all or work with someone where maybe I could impact them. So I think that helped me in that way a lot.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
what I really liked.
I think it also helps you mature, like, because you're actually supervising, you're actually giving like guidance and leadership, and instilling all these kinds of skills and stuff that you're learning at the same time, and like trying to pass it on to them.
Right.
So I thought that was really powerful.
One of the things that surprised you, what was like the biggest contrast between the high school that you went to and the high school that you were stationed at through the journalism workshop program?
I think one of the biggest differences was that I noticed in my school it was a lot of work that was done very singularly. So you would just do your work yourself and that was it. I mean, you would get instruction, of course, and go from there, but I noticed there was a lot more collaborative work or work in groups, which we had, but it was maybe more sanctioned. That seems like it was maybe more regular, like group work and things like that, which was great when I was there too, because it's kind of, you can walk around and interact, but we just didn't have as much group work, so it was just a difference that I noticed outright. What were some of the differences that you noticed?
Yeah, one thing I noticed was the class sizes. Like in my high school, like we had like a medium, maybe like a large medium, I guess you could say, kind of class size, like maybe 25 to close to 30, but not over. The class sizes at Germantown that I saw, like even when I would just walk past, like they looked like large classrooms. Like lots of classrooms filled with kids and not that many teachers to support them. And that's one of the things I remember Ms. Connigan saying, like how, they needed support for certain things and how, some areas of the school they were lacking. Like as far as like mainly just the maintenance, especially. That was one of the first things I noticed. Like Germantown High School, like it's big, outside of it's like huge. It looks like a castle. Like it looks like a castle in the middle of North Philly. And then when you get inside, you can see like it's a little bit older. And so like maybe it wasn't as well maintained because of how large it is, maybe how old it is. So I don't know, maybe the kids had a lot of pride in the school because they would decorate, they would have so much artwork and things like that up. But like the actual school itself, the structure, it looked like it needed an update, and it just didn't seem like it was something that the school district might have been able to provide. One of the things that I really remember when I first got to Germantown, it was her classroom also kind of doubled as like the computer lab room, and so there were like spare computer parts and like older computers and like mixed with the newer computers, and you could tell like some of the newer computers like they needed to be fixed, like they were still in decent condition, but they were just like sitting and they were stationary, waiting for somebody to fix them or waiting for the money to come so someone could fix them up. So it was a lot of that, just there was need in the school, and I don't think a lot of the need was always being met.
Part of the high school journalism workshop during my undergrad while I was here as a student. During that experience, I worked with George Washington High School, and it was an after-school program that I would go, I want to say once or twice a week, something like that. And they had they were a journalism club that they couldn't quite afford having a print newspaper anymore, but they were interested in like maybe making a WordPress or an online edition. So I worked with the students and we developed a logo and like a layout for this website, and it was really a collaboration. It wasn't just me making it, but it was a collaboration with the teachers and the students to figure out what kind of content they wanted to make and how they wanted it to look. I encourage students to write about, not just about like sports and school news and stuff like that, but also to share their own stories. There's one student named Princess who had written a story about her immigration to the United States, which is a really amazing story. And she actually ended up winning an award for that work, which is really cool because she had been writing all these sports stories, which are, they're interesting, but she really had a really powerful story to talk about her own story. And I think that was really, eye-opening for her and just like me as a teacher to tap into students' potential and story ideas that they could really pursue. I worked with Miss Kirby, Cheryl Kirby at George Washington High School, and even after that program, we were still emailing every once in a while, trying to check up on what she was doing and how she was and how the program was working. And then I ran into her maybe 2 years ago during the, there was a teacher's training here at Temple University. And I saw her, we reconnected as if nothing ever changed. It was a really awesome experience.